Hi, and welcome to the debut episode of Saved by the Fanatics. My name is Patrick. I'm a huge Saved by the Bell fan. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be going over episode by episode, kind of breaking it down, dissecting it. We're going to start with the original pilot, which was Good Morning Miss Bliss. It was created by Sam Bobrick. It was inspired by then President, NBC President, Brandon Tartikoff. He wanted to produce a show about an inspiring teacher, bring in Haley Mills, who starred in Pollyanna and The Parent Trap. So it started on NBC. However, it only lasted one episode. And it's not eventually Good Morning Miss Bliss did turn into Saved by the Bell. But the original pilot didn't have Mark Paul Gosselaar, Dustin Diamond, or Larry Voorhees, or Max Batimo or Heather Hopper, for that matter. Also, it didn't have Dennis Haskins, who would go on to play Mr. Belding. It had somebody else that was playing that actor, Oliver Clark. And it wasn't Richard Belding, it was Gerald Belding, which is different. Anyway, so it was canceled after only one episode on NBC. But then Disney bought the rights. So when it moved to Disney, they got rid of the original actor. So in the original pilot, they actually had Jonathan Brandis, Brian Austin Green, and Jaleel White, or Urkel from Family Matters, in the original pilot. Also in the original pilot, Miss Bliss was married. Whereas when they redid Good Morning Miss Bliss, she was actually a widow. Once it went to Disney, Peter Engel produced it on NBC. Then it went to Disney, and then it actually lasted a full season as Good Morning Miss Bliss. And then Peter Engel bought all the rights and moved it back to NBC. And then they aired a full season. That's when they brought in Mark Paul Gosselaar, Larry Voorhees, and Dustin Diamond. And they also brought in Max Batimo and Heather Hopper, who played Mikey and Nikki. Then they brought in Dennis Haskins, who played Mr. Belding, and T.K. Carter was also on there, and he played Milo Williams, who was in charge of maintenance. Then they repackaged it. So then it was repackaged in Syndicate, and then it was aired. They changed the name of Saving Good Morning Miss Bliss, and they changed it to Saved by the Bell, the junior high years, which we know it as now. Speaking of Good Morning Miss Bliss, Dustin Diamond, who played Screech, is the only actor to have appeared in every episode of Saved by the Bell junior high years, Saved by the Bell, the college years, and then the Saved by the Bell, the new class. In that, he played Mr. Belding's executive assistant. The only actor that they kept from Good Morning Miss Bliss, from the original pilot to the new series, was actress Haley Mills. She was Miss Bliss. In the original pilot, she was married. In the renewed season, she was a widow. So about the teachers. So Good Morning Miss Bliss was more about the teachers than it was the students. It wasn't really... so like in Saved by the Bell, they have Mark Paul Gosselaar as Zach. And it was more about him and his love for Kelly. So in Good Morning Miss Bliss, it was more about the relationships with the teacher, with the students. So it was about Miss Bliss. It was centered around her time as a teacher at JFK, which is the name of the junior high school they went to. And it was about her relationship with the students, the building relationship with her students, and then her relationship with Miss Tina Pellegrino. Miss Pellegrino was the music and arts teacher. And then Milo Williams, which he wasn't a teacher, as I mentioned, he was in charge of maintenance. He literally did everything by the book. He actually carried around a little rule book with him. And anytime that he questioned something, whether it was right or wrong, he would pull out this little rule book and he would say, according to this rule, this is what you have to do. So the remade pilot, so it had new characters. It was Mark Paul Gosselaar's debut. Dennis Haskins debuted as Principal Richard Belding. As mentioned, JFK wasn't married but a widow, and it takes place at JFK Junior High School in Indianapolis, Indiana. Good Morning Miss Bliss, as mentioned, ends after one season. Peter Engel had bought all the rights. NBC president Brandon Tartikoff only wanted 7 episodes. Peter Engel, according to his book, I Was Saved by the Bell, actually went in to Tartikoff's office and he wanted 13 more episodes, and he refused to. Tartikoff refused to do this. So, like a 5-year-old, Peter Engel refused to leave his office, and he kept saying 13 or security, meaning either 13 more episodes or you're going to have to get security to escort me out of your office. So he would refuse to leave. So finally, after doing this, after a while, Brandon Tartikoff finally caved in and agreed to 13 more episodes. So then it started at NBC, went to Disney, and then moved back to NBC. Is renamed to Saved by the Bell. So they did the full season on Disney, it was canceled, and then they redid the whole thing. Then it was just Saved by the Bell. They got rid of, first of all, it went to high school, not junior high. It moved from Indianapolis, Indiana, the junior high school, and went to Bayside, which was in the Palisades of California. They got rid of Max Batimo, who played Mikey. They got rid of Heather Hopper, who played Nikki. And then they kept Mark Paul Gosselaar, Dustin Diamond, and Lark Voorhees, moved them, had them in the new Saved by the Bell. They got rid of Miss Bliss. They got rid of Milo. They kept Dennis Haskins as Richard Belding. And then so they moved to California. But then you never hear from the other characters again. Then they brought in new characters. So they brought in Mario Lopez, AC Slater. They brought in Elizabeth Berkley as Jessie, and Tiffany Amber Thiessen, of course, as Kelly. They also introduced us to nerds. So in the junior episodes, they didn't have nerds. So they introduced us to nerds. So it was your typical high school. So you had the jocks, you had the nerds, and then you had the preppies, which was really just Zach. So some of the nerds, you had Max Nerdstrom, Violet Ann Bickerstaff, of course, played by Tori Spelling, Big Pete. I think he just appeared in the Malibu episodes, and then you had others. So the nerds, as you would imagine, they're your typical stereotypical nerds. They had the button-downs, the nice button-downs, the pocket protectors. They had glasses. They had the nice parted hair, the nice pants, and they were extremely smart. And in my opinion, they were a very big part of the show. In fact, one of the episodes centers around Max Nerdstrom, who at the time was dating Violet Ann Bickerstaff. And in that episode, they end up breaking up, and then Violet ends up dating Screech. So the focus, it was a new focus. So Good Morning Miss Bliss was really about Miss Bliss's relationship with the students. So the new focus of the show shifted from the teachers to the students. So it really wasn't about the teachers or the teachers' relationship with the students. The show changed its focus to the actual students themselves. So Zach, Kelly, Slater, Screech, and Jessie. And really centered around the relationship that Zach had with Kelly and how he was always trying to win her affection and trying to win her love, wanted to date her. Enter AC Slater, who entered the show, originally was supposed to be like a nemesis of Zach, feuding with him for Kelly, wanting her love and affection as well. So they were battling. So that was his original plan, to come in the show and be arch rivals, if you will. Mr. Belding also returns. So Dennis Haskins returns as Mr. Belding, and is constantly watching Zach and his motives. Zach, of course, is the Zach that we know. He's always getting in trouble, getting detention. Mr. Belding takes care of all that, and it builds a relationship with Zach because of that. Some of the highlights of Good Morning Miss Bliss. So they introduced us to Zach, Lisa, and Screech. They're very simple storylines, easy to follow. Life lessons are in the show about making friends, standing up for your beliefs. There's an episode there where Nikki, played by Heather Hopper, they're about to dissect frogs. Mr. Morton, who is the science teacher, announces that tomorrow they're going to be dissecting frogs, and Nikki is not okay with this because, well, the frogs are alive, which isn't a normal thing. Usually the frogs are already dead, but in this particular episode, the frogs were alive, and he had announced that they're going to be starting dissecting. And Nikki wasn't okay with that. She wanted to not partake. She didn't feel right about killing a living, innocent creature for the purpose of science. So she ends up releasing the frog. So she stood up for her beliefs. And sticking up for yourself. So there was an episode where there's a new student named Deke Simmons, played by Andres Jones, and Deke picks on Screech because finds out that Screech ends up getting 100% on a quiz, and he is the only one in class to get 100% on that quiz. So Deke decides to pick on him and basically make him do his homework. And towards the end of the episode, Screech sticks up for himself and says, what do you know what it's like to be laughed at and be made fun of? And we come to find out that Deke can't read, and he expects Screech to laugh at him, and then he's going to beat him up, but Screech doesn't laugh. And anyway, so Screech stands up for himself. Also, Good Morning Miss Bliss, I think, is a relatable type show. You can relate with the students. You can relate with the characters. You put yourself in their shoes, and you know what it's like to be in junior high, and what it's like to make friends, and what it's like to fall in love, and what it's like to have someone break up with you, what it's like to try to impress a girl to get them to like you. Some of my favorite episodes from Good Morning Miss Bliss. Summer Love. Now, Summer Love was the new pilot so the original Good Morning Miss Bliss was canceled. They brought it back. Summer Love was the new pilot. That was the pilot where they introduced Zach, Max, Heather, Nikki, and Screech and Lisa. So Summer Love, it was the very first one, and that's where Zach ends up going to summer camp, and he comes back the first day of class. He finds out the girl he falls in love with, who's in 9th grade, by the way, and Zach is in 8th grade, is going to JFK, and had no idea during camp that she was going there. And falls in love and lies to her and tells her that he's in an experimental 9th grade. He's on a secret campus no one can find. He has a driver's license that doesn't work on Wednesdays. He's part of an experimental homeroom where 9th graders like himself help out Miss Bliss with the other 8th graders, so on and so forth. Wall Street is another good episode. Miss Bliss teaches them, the class, how to invest in the stock market. They invest in an airline. Zach, you come to find out in the beginning of the episode, he breaks his father's camcorder, $300 camcorder, so he has to replace it so he doesn't get in trouble. Finds out you can make money in the stock market, so he ends up changing the project in order to try to make more money, so he can buy a new camcorder for his dad before he finds out the other one broke. And, of course, gets into trouble. Things don't go as planned. Clubs and cliques. So Zach tries to get into a club called the Rigmas, and they have to do all these ridiculous things to initiate him. Come to find out that the two guys that were initiating him, that was their initiation to get someone younger to think they were initiated to get in the same club. So that was a really good episode. Some memorable moments. Zach is very cunning. He's very persuasive. He convinces the gang to do things that they probably shouldn't do. Screech stands up to a bully. Miss Bliss offers to teach Bully how to read. That was the same bully. Again, it just shows the inspiring side of Miss Bliss and how the show revolves around her. Nikki stands up for her beliefs with releasing the frogs. Zach convinces Mr. Building that he's dying from a rare disease called descarosis. Again, this shows Zach how cunning he can be, how persuasive he can be. And that personality of Zach carries on throughout the entire Saved by the Bell saga, if you will, through Saved by the Bell, the junior high years, Saved by the Bell, and the college years. There's also Mikey and Zach almost fight over a girl. Mikey wants advice on how to ask out a girl. Zach gives him advice. Well, before Mikey asks her out, Zach asks her out. He doesn't know, though, that it's the girl that Mikey wanted to ask out. So, and then they find out that it is the same girl, and they almost fight at the end of the episode. Another memorable moment, Miss Bliss ends up dating Zach's dad, which, by the way, is funny because they keep the character of Zach Morris the same from Miss Bliss to Saved by the Bell, but they moved it to the Palisades in California, obviously. But Zach's dad in Saved by the Bell ends up having a different name, is played by a different actor, and is a different profession, which is very, very odd. So in Miss Bliss, he is named Peter Morris, played by a different actor, and in Saved by the Bell, he is Derek Morris and is a traveling salesman. Very, very odd that they did that. My conclusion, Good Morning Miss Bliss was vastly underrated, in my opinion. I really liked the junior high episodes because it really developed the characters and who you come to know as Zach, Lisa, and Screech. And the show teaches you life lessons along the way. It's just a very good show, very easy to follow, and you can relate to it. You can relate to each character. Good Morning Miss Bliss set the stage for one of the greatest TV sitcoms in history, and in my opinion, the greatest teen sitcom in television history. And again, a lot of that goes to because they really did a good job at character development and storylines. Great character development, excellent storylines. It's addicting. It's an addicting show. I remember watching it coming home from school, and it was on TBS, and it was one episode after. It was 2 episodes in a row every night, and I'd come home and I'd watch it, and I just loved it. And I don't care if it was a repeat; I'd still watch it. The transition from Miss Bliss to Saved by the Bell was almost flawless, with the exception of getting rid of characters and adding new characters. They kept the same character development. They kept the same. They didn't change who Screech was. They didn't change who Lisa was. Lisa was always into fashion. In the junior age years, she always wore makeup. She was always looking fashionable. Screech was always kind of the nerd, very smart, and would do anything, just kind of lay down in traffic for Zach if he asked him to. And Zach, of course, was as cunning as always. And they keep that. They keep that moving forward in the storylines. It was weird not seeing. So when it went from Good Morning Miss Bliss to Saved by the Bell, it was kind of weird not seeing Mikey or Nikki. And Jesse, it's funny because in the Saved by the Bell, they were neighbors, and Zach and Jesse are neighbors. And it's always mentioned in there that Jesse and Zach were best friends, and that Zach grew up next to Jesse and always, walked through her window. But Jesse was never even in Good Morning Miss Bliss, and there's never any mention of her in that show. And all of a sudden now they're best friends, and they've been childhood friends. So it was kind of weird. And Mikey or Nikki were never mentioned in Saved by the Bell. After the Good Morning Miss Bliss ended, they were never heard of again. Same thing with Milo, and same thing with Miss Bliss. However, not having Miss Bliss doesn't make a bit of sense because they're transitioning from junior high to high school. And usually junior high and high school are 2 separate things, and you don't really hear from your junior high teachers again. Overall, a great show. It was something that Peter Engel really wanted to do, and he did it. And I love the show. It's funny, it's charming, and it's something that, I still watch to this day. My wife got me the entire series on DVD, and I still watch it to this day, and I really enjoy watching the characters develop. I really enjoy watching Zach constantly convince Screech to do things that he shouldn't do, whether it's going into the pool and taking pictures of the girls for a swimsuit calendar, whether it's convincing him to do a science project because Zach doesn't want to do it. Whatever it is, it's just fun to watch Screech constantly do whatever he can for Zach. And it doesn't matter, whatever the consequences, Screech doesn't care, he'll do it anyway. So that is my debut episode, or excuse me, this is my first episode, just to kind of go over Good Morning Miss Bliss and go over Saved by the Bell, the transition. Next episode I'm going to go over Summer Love. So that's the new pilot of Good Morning Miss Bliss. We'll talk about that. And I'll mention a little bit about the original pilot. You can actually watch the original pilot if you're curious. It is on YouTube. It is different. The original pilot was Jonathan Brandis has an older brother that's dying, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. So Miss Bliss finds this out, and she's just kind of trying to, be a mentor or kind of be there for him because he doesn't know how to deal with it. He doesn't want to go home. He doesn't want to face his parents. So Miss Bliss kind of steps out of the teacher role and into a parent role and tries to be there for him. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you watch the next one. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.